Hello, everyone. This is the eighth class for the for the course of social psychological perspectives on health. So in the last lectures, I finished lectures on chapter 3, and today I'm going to start on chapter 5. So as I said in the previous lecture, I'm not gonna cover chapter 4. So if you are interested in the chapter 4, then please read it by yourself. And from today's class and on, we will work on chapter 5, which is which has a focus on stress. Okay. So stress is a kind of like word that everyone uses every day. And then you say like, I'm so stressed, or there's so much stresses in my life. But, I think the point here is that even if people experience a same stressor, they may have experienced it. They may experience it differently. Okay. So same stressors, different experiences. So people deal with sources of stress differently. So for example, you could think about exam. So exam can be a stressor, like you have to study and you may be worried about how well you can do on the exam, right? But some people may be stressed out from by the exam so much, while some people are just okay with it. And then you may ask why. And then, well, surely there are many different reasons why people can deal with a same stressor differently. But in this class, so we're gonna talk about different models of explaining how stress may be related to health. And then also how, yeah, I guess. And then but also we're going to talk about how groups may be related to understanding of the stressor. So one interesting finding that is explained in the textbook is that those who respond most positively to sources of stress receive a lot of support from their family or colleagues. So here, what I'm trying to say is that it's not about the cause and effect. People who respond to stress tends to be uh, supported by others. Those who respond to stresses positively tend to be supported by others, or those who are supported by others tend to perceive sources. But what I'm trying to say is that maybe there is a bi-directional relationship between this, how you perceive the stressor and then how you are supported by others, right? So what makes differences between people? What times makes some people are so stressed out by a stressor, but others may not be so stressed out by the same stressor, or even same individual may be so stressed out so much by one stressor, but at one time, but not so much in the other time. What makes these differences? Is that because they understand the stressor differently, or is that because they are supported by others and in other time they are not supported, or is there any other reasons? You know, and as I said, since this course itself is really the focus of this course is on the groups, so we will talk about what role groups play in this process. So we will particularly focus on the way we understand potentially stressful events and the way we respond to them. So how we understand a stressor and also how we respond to a stressor. They are they could be different based on what kind of groups or how many groups you belong to. So before I dive into the explanation of social identity approach to how we understand and how we respond to stresses, I would like to talk about the current approach to understanding stress. So the first one is the biomedical model, which talks about the importance of physiology and adaptation. So according to the biomedical model, the definition of stress is the strain that is imposed on a person by stressors in the environment that are perceived to be in some way threatening to the self. So I have been saying stressors. What is stresses? That is, there could be different things can be stresses, such as poor living or working conditions, adverse life events, fraud relationships, unreasonable demands. So as I will say, probably in the next videos, any kinds of life events can be a source of stresses or a source of stress, which is stressor. Okay. But it depends on how you actually understand and how you perceive such stressor. And depending on how you perceive the stressor, uh, or it may be more like how you perceive an event that can be potentially a stressor, you will experience stress from that event, or you are just okay with it. Okay. And the biomedical model propose one kind of process, which is the general adaptation syndrome. So if you look for this term on the internet, like you can enter the term in the Google, then you are more likely to find figure. Okay. And then let me try to write that figure here. So it's like a graph, and the uh, horizontal line indicates the equilibrium. So the levels of your immune system, kind of. Okay. And then this vertical line indicates how positively or negatively your immune system is working. And then the point here is when you experience a stressor or a threat. Okay. So when you experience a threat, your immune system, well, yeah, goes down. But immediately after the decrease of your immune system, you experience a surge of immune system, and then your immune system kind of stays high for a while, but it can't be maintained high for so long. So as the time goes by, your immune system kind of goes down even further, even below the equilibrium system state. Okay, so this is the typical figure you may find if you look for the term, the general adaptation syndrome. So there are three distinct phases. The first phase is alarm or shock phase. Basically, that is here after you face a threat or after you resist a threat. This is alarm. Okay. And the here is this phase is called counter shock. Okay. And then, well, it could be all this, but it could be also this part is exhaustion. Okay, let's look at each one of them. Alarm is when a person registers a threat and experiences a state of physiological arousal. Maybe alarm can be around here, okay, because it also includes the state of physiological arousal. And counter shock is uh, when a person becomes more aroused when attempting to counteract the stressor and the resistance. So this is basically when after you experience a stressor, you try to restore your immune system, kind of. And exhaustion is the adaptation and when their adaptation energy is depleted and equilibrium cannot be restored. So because basically it goes below the equilibrium state here, no? And they are no longer able to function effectively. Okay, so basically, if you go below the equilibrium state, then you are more likely to develop some like physiological or psychological problems. Okay, and second stage requires them to expend mental and physical resources, adaptation energy to restore equilibrium. So if you cannot successfully counteract the stressor while you are in the counter shock phase, you are likely to experience the phase of exhaustion. Okay. But if you successfully counteract the or if you successfully yeah, sorry, if you successfully counteract the stressor, then you will not gonna deplete the adaptation energy and thus you will restore the equilibrium. Okay. And then successfully counteracting leads to a state salutogenesis or eustress, opposite of distress, and overall experience of stress can be positive. But the failure of successfully counteracting the stressor requires longer resistance. So basically, if you cannot successfully counteract the stressor, then the phase of counter shock will become longer. As long as you can successfully counteract the stressor, or as long your deep adaptation energy would be depleted. Okay. Yeah. Failure requires longer resistance and eventually leads to exhaustion if your adaptation energy is depleted. Okay. Yeah. Oh, yeah. So, what I wanted to say is, yeah, this point. Overall experience of stress can be positive. For example, if you are going to have an exam, let's imagine that you are going to have an exam in 2 weeks, maybe, and then you have to study hard, and then you may cut down the time hours you sleep. You start getting tired, right? So basically, you are in the phase of alarm, and then you are in the phase of counter shock. But uh, when the exam day comes, and then you actually successfully uh you you did great on your exam. Okay? So then before taking the exam, maybe you were so stressed out and then you maybe even afraid of failing the exam, right? But after knowing that you did well on the exam, then you might think that, okay, yeah, I'm tired from studying for the exam, but now I feel so good, and then I feel good about myself because I did well on exam, So by successfully counteracting the potential stressor, your experience of the event can be positive. But if you study hard, but you still fail the exam, then your experience will be very negative. And then after studying hard so long, you may feel the exhaustion, right? So overall, experience will be negative, and then you may even develop some physiological or psychological problem because of the stress. Okay. And when the counter shock phase is too long, or when you cannot take a rest and this your exhaustion state is so long, you may develop burnout, chronic form of stress, which is called burnout. And there are three components in burnout. Burnout. One of them is exhaustion, and the other one is another is lack of accomplishment, and the other one is closeness or depersonalization. This depersonalization is different from what I mentioned in self-categorization theory. This closeness is more like a lack of emotions. Basically, you cannot feel anything. You cannot feel joy. You cannot feel sadness. Maybe I think more of a passion or positive emotions. A lack of such emotions is called closeness. And then because, lack of emotion is like not being being a person. So that's, I just think, called it's depersonalization as well. Burnout leads to heart disease, stroke, kidney damage, failure of the digestive and immune systems, and even cancer and early death. So as I said in the beginning of the lecture, people talk so much about stress and then they often say, I'm so stressed out or I'm feeling stressed these days. And stress, the word itself sounds like typical word that we experience every day. But when the stress remains too long, we may develop burnout. Well, the stress itself is not the cause of burnout. But if the stress comes with lack of accomplishment and closeness, then we will develop very severe disease because of stress. So we can really underestimate the negative impact of stress. And the question of what determines whether people are able to successfully resist particular stressor is largely unresolved by the biomedical mode. I think biomedical model, what I meant was here. So basically, biomedical approach really tells us that what kind of process we will go through when we experience a threat or stressor. And then if we experience stress too long, then we know that how stress will develop into very severe diseases. But we don't know what kind of people will be less affected by the stress and what kind of people will be more affected by stress. That's something biomedical model doesn't tell well. Okay. Then to understand or to get the question for that, I mean, to get the answer for that question, let's look into another model, the positional model, the role of personality and individual differences. This model or this approach considers individual differences that contribute to heart-related problems. And typical causes of heart-related problem is something like whether they exercise or whether they smoke or not, right? But this model focuses on whether people are type A or type B. Type A refers to a kind of behavior pattern that is associated with hostility, aggressiveness, demandingness, irritability, and ambition or ambitiousness. Okay, so when people are easily get hostile, aggressive, or when they are demanding, irritable, or ambitious, then you can say that the kind of person has a type A behavior pattern, or in short, TABP. Okay. Another type, another individual difference or disposition is type B behavior pattern. With this TBPP individuals would be more laid back and relaxed. Okay, so basically this model argues that there are different types of people. One of the people is type A and the other one is type B. And they argue that type A is more related to heart disease compared to type B. However, now they are understood as two ends of continuum, not distinct types. So originally, this model think that there are two kinds of people. One is type A and the other one is type B. But this wasn't really a good conceptualization of people. But instead, these are the two ends of uh, one continuum. So at the end of uh, continuum, there is like, well, type A behavior pattern. And at the other end, there's type B behavior pattern. And then people are at the some position of this content. So it's really like continuous, you know. You cannot really separate people into two, okay? But this is like people, you cannot really, if you say people can be separated here, but you cannot really tell the difference between this one and this one, okay? And the problem of type A or type B distinction is not only how they are different, but the relationship between TABP and health outcomes is weak at best. So there are various reasons why the link is so weak. First, controversially, Friedman and Rosenman, who proposed type A and type B, their work was funded by the tobacco industry. So basically, it seems that it is suspected that uh, there was a motivation behind the research, which was that the relationship between TABP and health outcomes can be used to reduce the connection between tobacco and the health outcomes. So there was criticism against tobacco industry that tobacco or cigarette produces health problems like heart disease or cancer, lung cancer. And using this research, probably tobacco industry was trying to disconnect or dissociate but tobacco and health problems. Furthermore, a meta-analysis showed that TABP did not predict health-related problems. So first, the research was funded by some industry that was motivated to dissociate the link between or associate health-related problem with something that was different from tobacco. And second, even if the intention was malicious, if the link was correct, then it's still okay, right? But the link wasn't there actually. A meta-analysis. Meta-analysis is something that you researchers collect many different studies and examine whether there is a consistent result across studies. And through such processes, this meta-analysis study shows that TABP did not predict heart-related problems. So essentially, TABP was not related to any health-related problems. And furthermore, other personality factors also failed to explain differences in how people experience stressful events. And also the problem of this positional model is that what makes a person have particular stress related characteristics in the first place? So that this positional model does not answer to the question of what makes a person have particular stress related characteristics in the first place. So some researchers argue that was people with this kind of behavior pattern tend to develop diseases, but it doesn't really answer to the question why some people tend to respond to stressors with such behavior pattern. It doesn't tell that. It simply tells that this kind of people tend to develop diseases. And then such research or such findings can really help people to change, you know. Like, for example, if you are easily irritated, maybe that's not good for your health, so you shouldn't be easily irritated. But if you don't know how not to be irritated, such message is useless, you know. And then this positional model is basically something doing this, you know. This model tries to find the relationship between disposition or behavior pattern and health problems, but it doesn't tell how to change disposition or how to change the behavior pattern. Okay, so it cannot really help people to be healthy. Okay, so I will just stop the first video here and then I will continue the next section in the next video.